the Hill's John Solomon. Now, according to his new report tonight, a whistleblower told Congressman Ron DeSantis that during an FBI video conference about former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, well, a senior FBI official made an inappropriate comment about Flynn, which made it seem like there was a personal motive to investigate him. We'll have more on that story in a few minutes. But first, the special counsel of Robert Mueller's entire investigation, we now know tonight, is one giant cesspool. It's full of corruption, partisanship, and unbridled bias. It is the epitome of the Washington, D.C. sewer and swamp. And Mueller's stooges literally are doing everything within their power and then some to try and remove President Trump from office. And tonight, we have new information about one of Robert Mueller's top attack dogs who has very deep ties to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the Democratic Party. Her name, we reveal, is Jeannie Ray. Now, there's a ton of information. Pay very close attention. Records show she is a huge Democrat. And since 2008, Ray has donated nearly $10,000 to Democrats. Now, that includes contributions to Hillary Clinton in 2015, 2016. She also dished out thousands of dollars to Barack Obama in 2008 and 2011. Now, it's not surprising because Ray is a registered Democrat in Washington, D.C. Does that sound like a fair, impartial investigator? For all of you watching at home, I don't think so. And it only gets worse from there. From 2009 to 2011, Ray worked directly with former Obama Attorney General Eric Holder. Yeah, the same Eric Holder that proudly declared that he is part of the Donald Trump resistance. And Ray served as a Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Office of Legal Counsel at the DOJ, where she advised Holder, the Obama White House, and other top Justice Department officials on all sorts of legal matters. And take a look at this government document. Ray is listed as the attorney for former Obama Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes when he was being interviewed about the Benghazi terror attack. So clearly, Ray has deep ties to top Obama administration officials. Look at this press release from her old law firm, Muller. That's the same law firm Robert Mueller worked at. By the way, they mostly only donate to Democrats. It describes Ray as, quote, having served as a legislative fellow in the office of former Senator Tom Daschle and as a counsel in the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of Legal Policy. If you don't recall, Daschle was the Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats in the early 2000s. Guess what? There's more. Jeannie Ray also has done legal work for the Clinton Foundation. You can't make this up. In 2015, while at WilmerHale, Ray defended the Clinton Foundation against a racketeering lawsuit. And Ray's name appears at the bottom of the plea agreement. Remember George Papadopoulos, the Trump foreign policy advisor that nobody ever heard of? Well, Ray's background and resume, what does it prove? She is a total and complete partisan hack. Mueller had no business, like in a lot of the other people he selecting her to be a part of his team, but he did it anyway, which should tell you all you need to know about the type of operation Robert Mueller is running. Next is one of Robert Mueller's top investigators, who is known as the special counsel's pit bull and has a history of all kinds of unethical, highly questionable, strong-arm prosecutorial tactics. And, of course, I'm talking about Andrew Weissmann. Now, before we get into his past, we had breaking news last night that highlights Weissmann's political bias in an email released by Judicial Watch yesterday. Weissmann told former acting Attorney General Sally Yates how proud he was of her. This after Yates denied a direct order from President Trump and refused to defend what we now know is constitutional, knew then, the travel ban back in January. Here's the actual email. I am so proud. I am in awe. Thank you so much. All my deepest respects. Well, now that you know about Weissmann, well, let's dive into his past. Our friend, colleague, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, he's been going over this guy's record with a fine-tooth comb. Guess what? Weissmann is a legal nightmare. Now, we have to know Weissmann has deep and close ties to both Mueller and the disgraced former FBI Director James Comey. He's worked closely with both of them for years, and he has donated over $4,000 to Democrats like Barack Obama. So there's no way he'd have any political bias, I'm sure, right? Well, this is the part that's deeply disturbing. When Weissman was the top prosecutor, remember the Enron task force? Well, he secured a highly controversial obstruction of justice case against American accounting giant Arthur Andersen. It destroyed that company. It put tens of thousands of people out of work. It drove that company out of business. And in 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Weissman's conviction in an almost unprecedented 9-0 unanimous ruling. They excoriated him for his behavior. And that's not the only example of Weissman's hard-charging, overly aggressive tactics. As part of the Enron investigation, Weissman sent 4 Merrill Lynch executives to jail for as long as a year. Guess what? They were innocent. That conviction was also later overturned, this time by the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. Here's the bottom line. Weissman, guess what? He's a legal tyrant. He has been accused of doing just about anything to secure a conviction. Does he not care about equal justice under the law? He's been accused of intimidating witnesses, making up crimes that do not even exist, and even withholding evidence that would have been exculpatory and helped the defense in one case. And Weissman is also directly tied to that corrupt Uranium One deal and Obama administration's attempt to hide it from you, the American people. Weissman, guess what? He was in charge of the DOJ's fraud section during the Russian bribery scheme. And Greg Jarrett pointed out that Weissman's signature, look there, it's at the bottom of the plea deal that was signed by the Russian businessman at the center of that case. Now, also tonight, breaking information about the Trump-hating, Hillary-loving FBI agent Peter Strzok. He's the guy that was fired from Mueller's team for political bias towards President Trump, another one of the dream team of Robert Mueller. Now, the DOJ is reviewing 10,000 text messages that Strzok sent to his FBI official girlfriend, Lisa Page. She also worked for Mueller. And what for? To determine which specific messages where Strzok was attacking President Trump. They need to be turned over to the House Intelligence Committee. So at this hour, it's unclear how many of the 10,000 messages have to do with President Trump or Mueller's investigation. It should be an interesting read. Now, the DOJ says this could take weeks or even months. Can we move a little faster? It's not that hard. We're also learning tonight that Strzok's dirty and biased fingerprints, guess what? They're all over the fake news, anti-Trump, Russian propaganda dossier bought and paid for by Hillary and the DNC that she was running. And according to a report, Strzok and his team, they were tasked with handling the dossier when it was given to the FBI. And according to other reports, information that fake news dossier was used to get a FISA warrant to surveil the Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Stop and think about this. Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian propaganda to influence an election. Sound familiar? And they might have used it to get a warrant to investigate an opposition party, a campaign, a president-elect. This is insanity. Strzok is as biased as they come. And here are more reasons why. According to a report, it was Strzok who signed the document that officially started the Russian collusion witch hunt. Now, the Trump-hating FBI agent also oversaw the FBI interviews, get this, of former National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And as we told you about last night, Strzok's mistress, Lisa Page, served on Robert Mueller's dream team before leaving. Now, here's where it gets really disturbing. As our own Catherine Herridge is reporting, well, Strzok played a pivotal role also in the Clinton email server investigation. You know, the one where they actually had an exoneration letter before the investigation. And he even took part in the 2016 interview of Hillary Clinton herself. By the way, she was never put under oath. And we're also learning that Strzok participated in the FBI interviews of key Clinton aides and allies, Uma Abedin, Cheryl Mills. And we showed you last night how lies were told by both of them. And here's the most egregious example of Strzok's rampant political bias. He's responsible for changing that crucial language in James Comey's statement that exonerated Hillary before they investigated. He's the one that revised grossly negligent to extremely careless, which gave them an excuse to let Hillary walk. Now, all of this is shocking. It's incomprehensible. It's a smoking gun proof that Mueller's probe is a total political sham. It's a witch hunt. It needs to be shut down immediately if we believe in the rule of law and our Constitution. But guess what? The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller as the special counsel, he's saying tonight he's satisfied with this investigation. Mr. Rosenstein, are you serious? You need to wake the hell up, get your head out of the stand, and take a look at what is actually going on. This is about law and order and legal justice under the law. Apparently, Rosenstein is the only person apparently in America that doesn't seem to realize, I guess unless you work at fake news CNN or conspiracy TV MSNBC, you seem to be the only one that doesn't realize there are very serious flaws with Mueller's investigation. This is exactly why we have been saying it's time for Rosenstein to pack his boxes, leave the Department of Justice, because this is an injustice. Now, Mueller's investigation is troubling. Democrats are using it to attack a duly elected president, the one you elected. And here's an example. Earlier today, you have 58 geniuses in the House of Representatives, all Democrats, supporting a resolution to impeach President Trump. For what? The bias, the politics swirling around Mueller's investigation is beyond alarming at this point. It's been a year of this, but it's still part of a much larger attack, and it's all aimed at the president of the United States. And, of course, it's being orchestrated by deep state operatives and Obama holdovers. Now, we have seen example after example of former Obama administration officials going after, attempting to discredit the president every day, day in, day out. Look at James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, now works at fake news CNN. He's repeatedly attacked President Trump. Here's one small example.
Are you questioning his fitness?
Yes, I do. I really question his ability to, his fitness to be in this office. And I also am beginning to wonder about his motivation for it. Maybe he is looking for a way out. How much longer does the country have to borrow a phrase, endure this nightmare?
Pretty disgraceful. And former Obama CIA Director John Brennan, more deep state. Well, he's made this shocking admission when testifying before Congress. Watch him.
I wanted to make sure that every information and bit of intelligence that we had was shared with the Bureau so that they could take it. It was well beyond my mandate as director of CIA to follow on any of those leads that involved U.S. persons. But I made sure that anything that was involving U.S. persons, including anything involving the individuals involved in the Trump campaign, was shared with the Bureau.
So what Brennan did was do everything within his power to make sure that the FBI and the deep state were going after Trump and his campaign. Now, after hearing statements like that, should we really be at all surprised that at the beginning of the Trump administration, remember, we had 125 deep state leaks in 126 days? Imagine this. When has it ever happened that a conversation with a sitting president and a prime minister or a president of another country was ever leaked? I can't think of a time. And we can't forget that right before he left office, President Obama, remember we talked about this? He signed Executive Order 12333, which made it easier to share intelligence so everybody across the government agencies had access. Why did he do it? Why didn't he do it during his term? Now, there's also widespread unmasking of American citizens, including Trump associates. And at one point, during the end of the Obama administration, former UN ambassador, remember Samantha Power? Why would she be unmasking people caught up, incidentally, in surveillance at the rate of one American a day? And then we have Ben Rhodes, former Obama Deputy National Security Advisor. Remember, talking about the attorney Wray? Oh, remember him? He was a person of interest in the unmasking scandal. So it appears what the Obama administration was, in fact, deliberate by unleashing this deep state power to strike against the incoming president before he even took office. And take a look at how former Ambassador John Bolton tonight is describing this mess that is going on in this country tonight.
As the Wall Street Journal said, this is the first attempted coup d'etat in American history. I mean, it's a mini coup d'etat, but it goes right along with the idea that they should have won the election.
Transfer of power is not minor.
You have to listen. This is not a game. What is happening in this country is dangerous, and it needs to be stopped before the deep state can overthrow the president that you, the American people, voted for. Back to our top story. We have a senior Justice Department official. His name is Bruce Orr. He was demoted because of his ties with Fusion GPS. That, of course, the firm responsible for the dirty Russian anti-Trump dossier bought and paid for by Hillary and the DNC. And Sarah Carter reporting tonight that the House Intel Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, is going to issue a subpoena for this demoted Justice Department official. Now, joining us now with more on this developing story from the Hill, John Solomon, investigative journalist Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. We got to, Sarah, start with where we are here. And it's not just him. Rumors tonight running rampant of a major shakeup coming to the FBI, possibly as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, certainly that's right, Sean. That's what I've been hearing as well from my sources. We know now that Bruce Ohr, as reported by James Rosen, he was demoted from Deputy Attorney General, and now he's facing a subpoena by the House Intelligence Committee, and that should be issued in the next couple of days. They are issuing that subpoena. It hasn't happened today yet. It's going through the process right now, so within the next day, possibly even as soon as tomorrow, they should have that subpoena issued. And now we're also looking at other developments. I mean, we know that Bruce Ohr had met with Christopher Steele prior to the election, and then after the election, he met with Glenn Simpson, who is the owner of Fusion GPS, who, by the way, paid Christopher Steele with the money from the DNC and Hillary Clinton to fund the rest of the dossier, the salacious, unverified dossier. So right now, what the Intelligence Committee chairman wants to know is, why did he meet with him? What did they discuss? And why did he meet with Glenn Simpson? And what did they discuss after the election? This is really big news. They say this is big, big news, maybe even bigger than Peter Strzok.
All right. That's just all great points you're making. And by the way, also the talk of, well, what did Rod Rosenstein know? What did I'd like to know what he knew. I'd like to know what Comey knew. I'd like to know what Mueller knew ahead of all of this. You know, a lot of questions, John, being raised about, okay, this team that literally has covered for Hillary Clinton and put all these biased people going after Donald Trump, you know, what would it take to get rid of a special counsel?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a high legal standard, right? You have to have one of three things usually. Misconduct. He has to have done something wrong in the investigation. A clear conflict of interest, and that's an area that could become very interesting in the next few weeks, or an abuse of power. It isn't just because people don't like the people he picked or the political sentiments of the people. To remove someone of that stature from this job, there has to be a very serious conflict, abuse of power, or misconduct. And to date, I don't think anything has emerged yet. There's a lot of concern.
Seems like
about
we're getting very close, though.
Well, I think the conflict of interest thing is a thing we should watch. I think we're going to learn some new things in the next 2 weeks, Sean, that's going to raise questions on that front.
There are two conflicts of interest that could get Mueller fired. The first one is Mueller interviewed with the president for Comey's job.
The day before.
That's right. Then the next day he takes the job as special counsel. Think about that. Sitting across from the man who's posing questions, and Mueller is not telling the president. He's being dishonest and deceptive. And he's involved in the aftermath of the Comey firing, which is the subject of the special counsel investigation. That disqualifies him. It's mandatory under the law. The other is his close friendship, also a mandatory disqualification, his close friendship with Comey. Mueller has refused to resign or step aside. It's time that the Attorney General unrecuse himself, replace Mueller, and clean up this staff that is rife with political bias and corrupt motives.
Where are we, Sarah, on the issue of reports that Comey wanted to hire Christopher Steele? Did they pay Christopher Steele? And when you get to the whole dossier issue, the fact that Ohr knew all of that, and he's 4 doors down from Rod Rosenstein?
Well, it's incredible, Sean. And right now, well, today we know one thing, that Nunes has been cleared by the Ethics Committee. So for 8 months, they've sidelined the chairman of the Intelligence Committee on one question. I've talked to sources up in Congress that said this was incredible. This would have never happened in the past. But those are the questions that they want answers to, and that's what they're seeking. So they will subpoena Bruce Ohr. They will ask these questions. They have already presented those questions to the DOJ. We know the Inspector General is investigating this, and these are the questions that the American public wants answered, as well as me, as well as John, everybody else, you. So there has to be some answer coming from the FBI, and especially from FBI Director Wray.
Are the House of Cards going to blow down?
I think so. And it's a shame because there are so many highly qualified, experienced lawyers who don't have a political axe to grind that Robert Mueller could have selected. He did not do it. It was deliberate. It was by design. Instead, he stacked it with people with egregious political biases, people who, in one case, defended the Hillary Clinton Foundation, in another, defending her top IT aide. I mean, these are people who should be nowhere near this investigation of Clinton's opponent, Trump.
John, knowing all you know and what's likely coming, how bad does this get for Mueller?
You know, I think there's a very important question that hasn't been fully focused on about Peter Strzok, and that is he was in a counterintelligence position on two of the most important investigations of the last year, Trump and Clinton. Counterintelligence agents are the focus of foreign powers. He engaged in an affair, if the reports are true. What's the one way a foreign power compromises someone? Through sex and affairs? And then after it's revealed that he had an affair, and it was with a fellow FBI agent, the FBI department, which was talking about its integrity today, where did they put him? They put him in human resources, like he has some expertise on following the rules. It's amazing to me. I think there's more questions to be about whether he was in a compromised position because he had an affair.
It was epic at this hearing today. I mean, seriously, what the Republicans did is everything we've all been talking about. Is getting interesting. Thank you all. When we come.
Remember, the DOJ official recently demoted for concealing the fact that he met with Christopher Steele of the dossier and also Glenn Simpson. But that wasn't the only thing that he didn't tell us about his ties to the anti-Trump dossier. The explosive connection to his closest family member. Next.
Lyrica.
Breaking tonight, exclusive new information.